thankful that you're tuned in with us tonight as well. Amen. Acts chapter 15, and we're going to just stay in some things that God has given to my heart to share with the saints of God. Acts chapter 15, and thank you. Y'all just scream for Brother Tom and Brother Sorrento. I love these guys. Absolutely amazing. We thank God for they help make that anointing easy before we get to Acts chapter 15. And we're going to look at, go down with me to verse 38 and verse 39. Tonight I want to kind of deal with sometime a taboo in the church, and that is conflict. How to handle conflict among fellow ministers. And sometimes when conflict arises between people who are literally just really love each other but have some conflict issues, many times it turns bad. But I want to look at this, that we may be able to extract some things on tonight that will also not only help us look at it from a congregational standpoint, but we can apply these principles to our very lives. Acts chapter 15, verse 38 and 39. I'm going to read it from the NIV translation. But Paul did not think it wise to take him. Him here is John Mark. Because John Mark did something on the journey, and that was he had deserted Paul in Pamphylia and had not continued with him in the work. Y'all see that? And that's what I just draw a spot right there. Paul did not think it wise to take him because he deserted him. Y'all see that? And so I want to talk from that thought, handling disciples who desert you. That's what I want to talk about tonight. Would you look over at your neighbor on your right and left? Say, did you hear what the little boy said? He said, handling disciples who desert you. You may be seated in the presence of God. Handling disciples who desert you. Handling disciples who desert you. If you want a subtopic, I'll give it to you. Watch this. You ready for it? All right. Healing the hole in your heart. I'm going to help you tonight. Healing the hole in your heart. Here we have in this particular piece of scripture, Lady Mitchell, we have a disagreement between, watch this, Alexis, two ministers of the gospel. Now, you would automatically think that two ministers should never disagree. But what I want to first of all remind you, I believe I've got 2 or 3 that will testify with me to say, we are all human. Before we are God-like, we are man-like. And let us remember that as long as we are in this flesh, we will encounter some wounds. Wounds, there are 3 kinds of wounds that every believer will encounter on this level. The first level of wound, if you want to make a notation, is conflict. As long as you in this flesh, you're going to have to deal with conflict. Just say this with me, conflict comes with it. Do I have anybody in here? Conflict just comes with it. All right. Number 1 is conflict, is one wound you will always have to encounter. The second one is challenge. I don't want anybody in my life that don't challenge me to do any better than I'm doing. If you don't have anybody in your life that's challenging you to do better, watch this. All they are is a friendly foe. Exactly. Y'all want to go on with me? The Bible declares if you have a friend that does not entreat you to do any better, he's almost like a man who set up a net at your feet. He flatters you and tell you that you're doing good. Really, you're on your way into a grave. The Bible declares that we must have people in our life who challenge us. And the third thing of it is not only conflict, challenge, but number 3 is criticism. If you hate criticism, then you hate, watch this, you hate the opportunity to do better. Anybody by show of hands will say you're your own worst critic. No matter what someone says to you, you will say within yourself, no, I really didn't give it my best. I really didn't do my best. And so, brothers and sisters, these wounds will always plague our lives. And you have to be careful on how you deal with one another once these wounds have had its tape ripped off of your skin. These two ministers are having a disagreement. Paul and Barnabas are the two fellows in the text. Paul is the visionary leader. Barnabas, whose name means encouragement. Can I park here parenthetically to tell you, if you want to do anything great in life, you need somebody beside you who can encourage you. Amen. I want you to just take a moment in this sanctified crowd tonight. Would you look over at your neighbor right next to you and just look at how beautiful they are and look up on their pretty eyes and just ask them this question. Tell them, are you a celebrator or are you a hater? I just tell them I need to know because I need to know if I need to move up the other side of the church. Are you a celebrator or are you a hater? Barnabas celebrated Paul. You need somebody in your camp that can celebrate you. If you can't count on your hand how many people that will encourage you, you need to find somebody who can encourage you. Anybody in here sick and tired of every time you go to do something, you always got somebody who call themselves your friend, watch this, always overly criticizing you. Yeah, you did it, but you could have done this. And you did this, and you could have done this. Oh, hush. If you were so good, you wouldn't be where you was in life yourself. I wish I had help here. But every now and then, you need somebody pat you on the back and tell you that you can make it, tell you you can recover. Can we just do that just for about 10 seconds? Can you find somebody in your neighborhood and take a moment and say a word of encouragement to them? Just try, just see how it feels. Tell them you're going to rebound from this. I see greater in your future. I see something that is brewing in the east. God's getting ready to favor you like never before. Kevin, I know you arrived with me the other since tonight. But do I have anybody out there that sometimes say, if somebody would just encourage me, I believe I can go on and see what the end is going to be. That's what we must do, brothers and sisters. We must learn to encourage one another. And Barnabas is this particular role that he is playing in Paul's life. He is encouraging him while they are on a missionary journey. Paul takes an issue, and one day it arises. And what happened, Lady Natasha, is Paul was doing the missionary work, and he had assembled a team, and John Mark, who happens to be Barnabas' nephew. So the nephew is working with the visionary, and he's trying to give him instructions on what to do. And John Mark was guilty of a sin that many of us overlook. Write it down. Here's a sin that you don't see in your Bible, but it's one. It's called the spirit of absenteeism. Y'all don't like this. John Mark was supposed to be with Paul. A fight broke out. Y'all ain't gonna say amen. And when Paul turned around to see who was supposed to be fighting Chris, John got ghost. Let me survey the house and see if you ever had a friend when a fight came up. Y'all don't say that. But what they did when you was getting ready to fight, they turned and they ran. And in other words, God never called us to be cowards. He called us to be champions. Do I have any witnesses out there that say, when you in the fight of your fight, don't give me somebody that don't know how to fight. But when I'm in the fight of my life, don't call people who can't get a prayer through. But you need to at least have two people in your life called goodness and mercy that you can call when you're going through the tough times of your life. Can I get a witness? To know that sometimes when you're going through, I don't need you to take me to Red Lobster so I can get fat. I need you to call me and tell me I can make it and pray strength into my heart. Tell me to hang on in there and survive because God ain't through working with me yet. This is what happened in the text. We're in Acts chapter 15, 38 and 39. And John Mark had just pulled one of the greatest sins in the body called the spirit of absenteeism. No call, no show. And it's already bad you didn't call to say you wasn't going to be here. It's already bad you didn't show up. But what do you do when you just don't even show up and then you don't even say nothing? And then you come prancing up in here in a few days, almost like somebody owe you a hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Need somebody help you. And we got to learn, brothers and sisters, that accountability is required when we serve in the household of faith. John Mark didn't show up, and it upset Paul. Now, hold a minute, because some of us believe that we ought to be nice to everybody. We shouldn't check nobody in church, just overlook some stuff. But let me say this to you. Can I get about 4 or 5 witnesses that can testify that, watch this, it's a danger to hold stuff in your heart that you won't talk about. Y'all ain't gonna say that. You walking around the family and you got an issue. You know Uncle Jay owe you $20 and he come prancing up in there trying to eat ribs back in your kitchen. You looking at him and he won't mention this $20 you told me you was going to give me yesterday. Do I have any witnesses that say some people are guilty of taking your meekness for weakness? I wish I had a witness here, because sometimes they don't know you just a few days removed from Negroism. Y'all remember? I like to lift these hands to worship, but sometimes I want to give you these hands. Y'all sitting there judging me, don't judge me, but there are people that will pass you and act phony with you as if they don't owe you an apology based upon something they did wrong. This is what John Mark did. Come prancing, he been absent. He ain't come in there, got him a new suit on. Y'all hear what I'm telling you, prancing. Y'all hang around church, some folks are fool you. Brothers and sisters, what I'm trying to tell you is he had no response for his lack of no presence. And they thought that Paul would just get over it. And watch this, some of us try to hide because we have family in leadership. Come close, come close. Because Barnabas served next to the Apostle Paul, John thought he could get a free pass. And can I tell you, brothers and sisters, in this season, you have to learn you can't get in on your mama's religion. Y'all know what I'm trying to tell you. You praying, trying to drop your mama name. And I know my mama been faithful, and I know my daddy been faithful. When are you going to be faithful? Y'all hear what I'm trying to tell you? You got to set before God by yourself. Mama won't be there. Daddy won't be there. And this is what happened with John. He tries to hide under the camouflage of cousinism. And I want you to know that these two ministers have a disagreement between themselves, and it becomes heightened because it's just now not about the failure between Paul and Barnabas of John Mark. It's about John being Barnabas's family. Nepotism. What did he say? Nepotism, Nepotism, is one of the plaguing issues in church. Nepotism is when, I wish someone had some help here, is when family favors family relatives and friends with partiality. Okay, so you get on to everybody in the choir for being late, but you don't do it to your daughter. Y'all come on here. You get on all of everybody that's serving on the team, but because that's your brother, you don't say that to him. That's called nepotism. And we have to be careful that we don't favor loved ones so much, watch this, that we become unfair. Can I tell you, you can be anointed and be unfair? Paul, not the first time he addressed Barnabas, Paul hated partiality because one day Peter came to Antioch and he had been down there eating ribs in Acts 10 at Cornelius' house. Well, Jews wasn't supposed to eat meat. Y'all hear what I'm telling you? But he showed up with barbecue sauce under his fingernails and coming there playing like he hadn't been down to the Gentile house. And the Bible says that when Peter walked in the door, Paul got in his face and said, really? You like this? I like Paul. I like Paul because he's not too saved. He can't remember the streets. Y'all ain't gonna like this here. Sometimes you gotta take off your sanctified earrings and put grease on your forehead and call folks in and say, I need to holler at you before you leave. You don't have any real Christians. See, I grew up in the old church, and when you grew up in the old church, there was some sanctified mothers on the front row. And what they would do is they would always look like they were mean with no teeth. Y'all help me here. They were always looking like they had an attitude because what they were designed to do was to be discernment for the ministry of God. And so we have become so phony and so fickle. We don't have nobody in the church to tell you your dress a little too short, sister. I know you was at the club last night, but pull it down a little bit, y'all. That makeup is just a little too much. That cake gonna give you your eye when you go to climb. You need to scale that back, y'all. See, people don't want to say that because we're so tender, we're so fickle. But Paul was a real holiness man of God, and he got in John's face and said, "You are a coward." And when Barnabas came from the side and said, "Leave my cousin alone," he said, "You are after the relationship. I'm after the fact that he's all the way wrong." Brothers and sisters, I held a leadership meeting just some time ago at my Arkansas campus, and one of the critical thought questions that I taken through was that a husband had called his wife, and he says, "Baby, I'll be home in a few hours, and what I need you to do, I need you to iron my shirt, because when I come in, I have a meeting that night, and I really need you to do so." This was the critical thinking question. And so she says to him, watch this, she says, "When you get home, it'll be done, Tubby." So he gets home, and guess what? The shirt wasn't ironed. Well, she says to him, when he gets in the door, says, "You got my shirt?" She says, "Oh, I don't have your shirt." Then she says, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" So that was the critical question. So I opened it up to my leaders, and my leaders, yes, my leaders, they evaluated the situation and said, "Well, maybe he shouldn't have asked her." Okay. The second thing is somebody else said, "Maybe he should have just waited to get home out of his own shirt." Okay. The third thing was, "Did she work?" Okay. My critical issue among all of the answers was, nobody saw it wrong that she said she was going to do it and didn't do it. Not one leader called her on the fact that her word wasn't no good. And it taught me something, brothers and sisters, that we are living in the hour of justification. With justification, if you told me you was going to be there at 7, don't you call me and tell me that your shirt wouldn't iron right. No, your word is your bond. That's why Jesus declared that your yes be yes. And your no be no. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand that all relationships, write this down, come with restrictions. All relationships come with restrictions. Therefore, when you're dealing in a relationship, it's not a matter of jealousy, it's a matter of jurisdiction. Okay. Your kids are your kids at home. But if they get to the house of prayer and working in the youth department, and the youth pastor tells them to do something that you may not agree with, your thoughts become secondary because you have switched jurisdiction.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
If I don't want to wear tennis shoes, that's my business. But if I go down to state legislation and I'm going in to argue the case of one of my members who has a jury trial and is facing life, if they say you gotta have your shoes on, y'all help me here. I can't walk up to the man in the front and tell him, "I'm Pastor Michael, I don't want to wear shoes." He's going to tell me that the no hit you. But the good Lord split you. I need your driver's license. I need you to have shoes on. And I need you to take that belt off and come through this metal detector because you switched jurisdiction.
Yes.
Barnabas forgot that. And many of us forget this kind of thought. And that is, brothers and sisters, we must understand that God is a God of order. Hello? I said God is a God of order. And because he's a God of order, it's never about jealousy as it relates to relationships or family. It's about jurisdiction. I'm an avid movie watcher. There's a movie called Remember the Titans. One of my favorite actors, Denzel Washington. And he's playing Coach Boone. When he gets these boys, he has a group of black boys and a group of white boys. He's trying to merge them together to work as a team. So one of the Caucasian boys comes up on him and he says to the coach, "Coach, I know we're going to practice, about to get on this bus." He says, "Well, if you just let them do the offense, me and my boys will do the defense." He looked at me, smiled real big. He says, "Bertier, where's your mom?" He says, "My mama right there." And he says, with his own breath, he says, "Miss Bertier, look over at your mama and wave at her real good." He said, "Because as long as you're off the bus, she's in charge. But when you get on this bus," he looked at me in the eyes, And I want you to do this to your neighbor tonight. Say, I'm going to be your pappy. When you look down your row and say, neighbor, know where your jurisdiction is. Brothers and sisters, we must understand Hebrews 5 and 12 is when it comes to kingdom, we got to grow up and stop being kids. Hebrews chapter 5 verse 12, write it down. Hebrews chapter 5 verse 12, it says, in fact, though by the time you ought to be teachers, you still have need of somebody to teach you the elementary truths of God's word all over again. He said, you need milk because you can't handle solid food. Brothers and sisters, we must be able to embrace this. And Barnabas' issue was that he was a relative, but Paul's issue was that John Mark wasn't right. The good news that I like in the text, and I want to look at it, is the fact that Paul thought John Mark, concerning the things of God, that he was a wimp. He was a wimp, and when we have a reputation among the sanctified, we must consider ourselves to not be how Paul assessed John Mark. He assessed him to be three things. Here we go, write it down, to be unacceptable in his behavior. Brothers and sisters, every day we are either building up our reputation or we turn our reputation down. Are we timely? Have we done what we have been asked? Are we unacceptable? The second thing I want you to write down is the word unfit. Paul thought John Mark to be unfit, though he may have been, watch this, the relative of somebody strong in faith. John Mark, Lady Mitchell, proved himself to be weak. And brothers and sisters, we just need to be real with each other. That sometimes we ask people to serve in a capacity that they are unfit. And then the third thing I want you to write down, and you have to be careful of in the body, is being unapologetic. The fact that you have done a deed, but you have not found no wrong in you being late, have not found no wrong in you not doing what you have said do. And Paul has held John Mark to three things. He told him he was unacceptable, he told him he was unfit, and he told him he was unapologetic. The text opens with this appreciation for a spirit-led shepherd who had a threefold likeness of God. And I want to give you these and I want to get out of your way. He had a threefold perspective that God had put on the inside of the shepherd. You ready for the first one? The first thing that Paul had when he deals with Barnabas in this text, he had determination. Let the church say determination. Determination, if you're making a note, is a firm grip on your purpose. This is what Paul had. A firm, F-I-R-M, grip on his purpose. Right? In other words, he did the exact calculation of what God's will was for him. Determination. Determination. Let the church say determination. Determination is wrapped in two T's. It's tenacity and trust. Tenacity and trust. Tenacity is, if I'm doing this for God, God is obligated to help me or send me help to complete this task. Many times ministers get wimpy when they're serving in God's house because they have to address somebody who got money. That's why, like Nehemiah 5, right in the midst of a building campaign, he goes off on the men in the church who got money. Because they are raising the interest rates on the poor of who they are lending their homes to, and they're jacking up the prices to make money off the saints. And Nehemiah goes in and he goes off and tells them how wrong they are to take advantage of the poor in the sanctified church. And he goes off on them, watch this, without any resolve to believe they're going to hold their money back from the building campaign. And brothers and sisters, can I tell you, when you are hooked on treasures more than you are trust in God, you are in a dangerous place. I remember early on in my ministry, and deacons had got together, and they said, Pastor, we don't like how you drive. I said, well, what's wrong with how I drive? They said, we don't want any pastors out driving like you drive. And I thought my Honda was fine. Y'all hear what I'm telling you? So they went out and bought me a 600 Mercedes-Benz. It was sweet, you know, and I felt like I was somebody's pastor. You know, I was, oh Lord, maybe the Honda was a little too cheap. You hear what I'm telling you? But they had motive. in what they done. So they thought that because they had bought that 600 Mercedes-Benz that I rode in, that they could usurp my authority and cause the ministry to come stagnant because they wanted to make room for something that they did not advise me of. I wish I had help here. But I had to let them know, glory, I'm not here to serve the Benz. I'm here to serve the Lord. And if the Lord told me to do this, and he told me to do it, and you want to take the Benz back, here are the keys to the Benz. Because I have to stand before God one day, and I want to hear him say, well done, that good and faithful servant. Can I tell somebody that if somebody is dangling something over your life, trying to control you and put you in a place that you compromise what is right, it's better that you give back what they gave you and stay loyal to God than compromise and to receive what they have given you just so you can fit in. Do I have any witnesses out there that say you have been at that place in your life before? But somebody threw you some eye candy and told you to just hush your mouth. But I believe I got some blind Bartimaeus in the house. When they told him to hush when Jesus was coming by, blind Bartimaeus said it like this: I can't hush because I'm blind. In other words, I know I need the Lord in my life, and I'm not going to shut up because that's what you want me to do. I'm going to cry out and spare not. I'm going to lift up my voice like a trumpet in Zion. Tell my people their transgressions in the house of Jacob, their sins. Brothers and sisters, can I tell you, it's good that you got some resources with people. But if there are any witnesses out there that say he is my source, he's the source of my strength, and he is the strength of my life. Somebody holler tenacity. Tenacity says it like this: if God be for me, he's more than the world is against me. You don't want to bless me, you don't want to help me, fine. That's all right. I know God has a way of sending people from the north, the south, the east, and the west. That's what he told Paul when he was down on himself in Acts chapter 18. He said, Lord, I'm going to quit your ministry. I can't get nobody to help me. He said, you better not hold your peace. He says, I own the hearts of everybody in the city. And if everybody that you preaching to hate you, they don't like you, I'll go under a bridge, raise up a dope man. I'll go out and get a crack feed. I'll turn their life around. You stay faithful teaching the word of God. And when you have need of, I will provide. Go ahead and witness that they can say, I've lost some friends along the way. I've lost some money along the way. But as long as I keep Jesus as my focus, he has kept everything all right. Anybody ever know that God can make a way out of no way? Anybody know God can be a friend with no one else to be a friend? If I lose everybody in my life, as long as I got Jesus right with me, everything I lost, he can make it good. How do I do coming through? No weapon that's formed against me shall be able to prosper. I can supply all of your needs according to my riches and glory. And God is able to do, I'm waiting on y'all, exceedingly abundantly. Look at your neighbor and say, you gotta have some tenacity. You gotta have some tenacity. You can't be like a dog with no teeth. But if you when you're talking to Bang and you put something in Bang's mouth and you're toiling with him to see if he got any Kool-Aid in his blood, Bang reminds you, I'm a dog. And sometimes when Satan's trying to rip your family out of your hand, sometimes don't do this, we leave it. Well, I think you ought to get your stuff and have it packed by 12. Because I'm not going to conform to what you want me to do. If God be for me, I wish I had a witness here. Who can stand against me? And I want some of y'all to get your determination back. Stop being moved by glitter and gold and purses and somebody give you a new weed. You got to tell them that God is directing me to move forward. You can either give it and go with me, or you can stand behind and wait at me goodbye. Even if I leave your house naked, God will put clothes back on my back. He'll keep food on the table. He'll keep shelter. Paul has a backbone because he recognizes that if God called him to do it, if everyone don't stand with him, he'll stand by himself. Brothers and sisters, we can't lose our tenacity because our tenacity recognizes, watch this, in whom we trust. Who we trust develops our toughness. That's why Paul can stand up to Barnabas. Tell him John Mark wrong. He wrong, and I'm not taking it. Barnabas says you need to take it. He said, no, I can't take it because of what he's done. Brothers and sisters, I rid you right now of feeling helpless based on who used to help you. And some of you are stuck, still looking in the rear mirror, waiting on people to help you from your past. And God has called me to convict you tonight because what he has told me to tell you is you have stopped walking in faith. You have turned faith in the people. You have turned faith into what your particulars are. Faith is a step out on water. Believing that the law of gravity that would say it would sink you is not strong enough, watch this, to defy the very faith you have in God. Brothers and sisters, either we are standing still or we are moving forward towards God. We're either standing still or we are moving forward with God. Will everybody go? Well, when I read the scripture, Bianca, didn't nobody step out with Peter? Scoot up close. Are you listening? You're waiting on somebody to walk out your faith with you. Hello? I've got some situations back at home that's brewing from a business perspective. And I had told God, now, if nobody stepping at a sign with me now, I'm not going to do this. And, hey, I'm going to call everybody and see who's going to stay in there and sign. And so, y'all know how God works. Y'all don't talk to me in here. This is how God works. See, you call, hey, Greg, can you help me? You know, I got a whole lot going on right there. Well, that's all right. I got 4 more I can call. Call the second. Can you help me? I can't. What did the first one say? He can't. Well, I said what he said. All right. Call the third one. Can you help me? I can't. Not. Can you check back with me later? Okay. All right. 4 won't answer. Call 5. 5, you gonna help me? I need talking over with the boss. Oh, okay. Who the boss? You can't help me. So I watch this. I type into the comment section. Y'all gonna love this. This is what I said. I was gonna say. Well, let's go back and tell everybody we're not gonna do it because watch this. What I said to myself. If I have to do this by myself, I ain't walking by myself. Come on. Because watch this. There are some things you do by yourself that's called $10,000 hope. But $100,000 hope, you don't want to walk by yourself. And while I was typing that up to send to those who said that they would help me no matter what, I was getting ready, watch this, to hit send and y'all hear what I'm trying to tell you. God said to me, is there anything? Thank you. And I kept trying to push out with the ark. He said, and I kept building because I believed. And I stopped here to tell somebody what the old folks said. And they told me like this: if my mama don't go, if my father don't go, they said, I'll go. If I have to go by myself. I want you to practice that with your faith tonight. Point your finger at your sanctified neighbor and tell the neighbor, if you don't go, if you don't want to believe, tell them I'll walk it out, knowing that God is on my side. Now, how I act like this and tell them, trust Him. I'm determined. But the second thing he says that he gives us to give to the shepherd in the text, and Paul, write this down, is discernment. Somebody holler discernment. Look what it says in the text, brothers and sisters. It says, Paul did not think. He did not think. He did not think it was wise. Discernment, write it down, is the ability to judge well. The ability to judge well. Old Testament scripture talks about a prophet by the name of Elijah. He had a servant by the name of Gehazi. And Gehazi had taken off work from the ministry today and said that he wasn't feeling well. He stayed home. He was off the whole day, but what he had done is went back down to Naaman, who had just left Elijah, wanting to give him riches, of which God told him, brothers and sisters, don't take anything from Naaman that he may leave, saying he made you rich. Scoot up close. Don't you know that people want to own your anointing? They want to say that they own your anointing because they paid for it. But Elijah took nothing from Naaman. But watch this. Gehazi fooled around and saw too much that was in the trunk of Naaman. So he took a day off and found Naaman and says, Elijah wants everything that you said that he told you earlier that he did not want. He said, well, take everything out of the trunk. Gehazi said, yes, I will. Pulled his car up next to Naaman's and took everything out of Naaman's trunk and put it in his, took it home and hid it, and put it in his house, went to work the next day. Passed by the pastor's office, Pastor Elijah, that way down. Hey, Pastor, hey, before you leave, let me holler at you. Yes, sir, Pastor. He said, you're so happy today. Yes, I'm happy in Jesus. He said, you was a little sick yesterday, right? Yeah, I wasn't feeling the best. He said, I was just at home and trying to nurse my body. And Elijah stood up from his desk, put his glasses on. He said, you lied. He said, I saw you with discernment down at Naaman's place. He said, you lied to me, and because you have lied to me, the sickness that was on Naaman now is going to rest in your body. God gives his shepherd discernment. Brothers and sisters, can I tell you that sometime before people call me, God has already told me what they're going to say. Would you raise your right hand? I want to prophesy in this house. I pray that God would enlarge your discernment. That you will make righteous decisions and know who's in your presence, to know phonies and to know fickle people, to know real people, to know who is there to bless you and who is there to drive a stake in your back. Somebody declare, Lord, increase my discernment. Oh, I don't know if y'all know how to shout. That's the ability to judge well, and that's what Paul had. When he saw John Mark, scoot up close, brothers and sisters, just because you judge somebody well doesn't mean they're worthless. It's just that it means that they are unfit for you for that season. And can I tell you that some of you have gotten relationships that were just unfitting in that season. Sometimes you put people in a place of procrastination for you. Ask Samson when he was down at Delilah's house. It wasn't that she was not a friend. It wasn't that he couldn't talk to her. It's the fact that he was supposed to be doing something else and got caught up being at her house too long. Brothers and sisters, we must understand that God requires us to have this level of discernment, and you're going to need it in the days ahead. Number one, determination. Number two, he had discernment. Can I give you the last one? I'll get out of your way. And this is the one that many of us have a hard time to embrace. Are you ready? Scoot up close. Detachment. The detachment is a state of being objective. Look up here, saints of God. When I start talking slow, I'm really teaching. Y'all ready? Some of you are so sensual you can't be objective. Everything is about how you feel. Where my ladies at? Let's talk. And then we'll come back to the brothers. You can mess up some seasons of your life is because you move on how you feel and not by what is the principle.
Yes. Yes.
The principle of it is that Paul cannot shake the fact that he cannot be on a missionary journey and have a wimpy boy who's supposed to watch his back run off in the woods and don't even tell him he's running. That's the principle. Barnabas represents a tie to his heart. He loves Barnabas. Barnabas is talking to his heart while Paul is trying to think with his head. Oh, come on and talk to him. Anybody ever found yourself in situations you needed to do what was best for your head, but somebody had too much of a grip on your eye? Y'all ain't gonna say amen. I'm talking to somebody. You just keep looking down right where you are. I know I'm in your backyard. Hebrews chapter 4 verse 12 says that God gives us an anointing through the word of God. This is why some of you watch this. You're spiritual, but you're not scriptural. And it's a danger to be spiritual and not scriptural. Because scripture is objective. Y'all don't hear what I'm telling you. Spiritual is just falling all over the place. Get up. You gotta hear what I'm telling you. You gotta learn how to be scriptural. And Hebrews 4:12 says, when you read the word of God, it brings a dividing of the soul and the spirit. Scoot up close. The spirit is how I process things in my mind. My soul ties me to my situations and affection. But when I read the word, God takes a knife and he saws between what I'm supposed to hold up objective and what I'm supposed to be connected to sensually. And without the word of God, many of us are schizophrenic. On one day we say we through, we moving on. But before the week is over, you are calling and say, what is it? Well, I just had some time to think and everything, and I just want you to know, I love it's not that I don't love you. It's hush. If you told them, y'all hear it, ladies, y'all better come get me out of jail. If you told them, honey, you made up your mind, you're going back to school, you're getting back right with God, you're going to stay on the narrow path. If that's what you said, Monday, what happened to you between Monday and Thursday that you said, hey, I'm just calling because I just wanted you to know, it's not that I don't love you and everything. It's actually, I'm trying to. Do you agree what I'm trying to do? Dividing of the soul and the spirit. That's what the word of God will do for you. It'll allow you. Paul had enough word. And can I tell you, brothers and sisters, you don't have a womb problem, you have a word problem. And when you lack having the word of God in your life, you can't make objective decisions that are sound, that are concrete for your life. I can respect a man that is objective to tell me why he cannot do and why he's moving on. I can respect him for that. Y'all hear what I'm trying to tell you. But somebody that is just all over the place, they don't know what they want to do. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're all over the place. Flip-flop, flip-jack, flip-a-fack, world sandal-back, whatever. Brothers and sisters, we must understand as believers, we must learn to be objective. When you can be objective, you can detach from some things and hold on to the very confidence is that Paul understands, brothers and sisters, that if God is on his side, then everything else will work out all right. And can I tell you, just because people have been riding with you to the place called now, don't mean that they're going to ride with you from now to later. Can I close? Let's go home. Jesus, one day in St. John chapter 6, he was with the posse and they were all together. It was the 72 and the 12. The 72 came to Jesus and Jesus said, I really need to know who is going to be with me as I get closer to the cross? Because y'all do know that there are people that hang with you in comfort, but they won't hang out you when you're facing the cross. The 72 looked at Jesus and he says, what I ask of you, is it too hard for you to believe? And the Bible says that Jesus looked at the 72 and they started whispering to one another. They said, is what he's saying what he's really saying? Jesus said, if you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, what was he talking about? He said, I need a deeper commitment from you. Because how many know when you're going through the storm and the rain, you need to know who can be an anchor for you when the boats of your life tossing to and fro. Can I keep on telling you the story? So the 72 looked at Jesus and said, we are leaving you in your face. Jesus, watch this, understood, Mother Luella, that sometime in your life you got to look at people and tell them that the Lord is you, with the good Lord's pleasure. But wait a minute, he didn't stop there. He turned over to the 12. He said, Peter, are y'all leaving too? I'm in St. John 6, about 63 through 66. And Peter looked at Jesus. He said, and go well, Lord. Thy word is eternal life. And I want to know, is there anybody in here that look back over your life and say, I can let some people leave me, but I will never leave the only one that's made a way for me. I will never leave the one that's already been there. Before I take it back, I'm going to hang on to it. Can I get a witness in here? Look at your neighbor, tell your neighbor, I'm determined to run with Jesus and to run with Jesus all the way. Do I have a witness out there that can declare I'm not only determined, but I'm discerned? He said, be as wise as a serpent, but be harmless as a dove. Can I tell you, in your life, you got to learn your greatest enemies are not from the world. They are sheep dressed up like wolves. They are wolves dressed up like sheep. In other words, when you believe somebody's innocent, that's when they can hurt you the most. And you got to discern in this season who's going to be for you and who's going to be against you. Do I have a witness that can say that the Lord is trying to teach you how to handle disciples who try to desert you? Lean over and point at your neighbor and say, neighbor, are you the one, or shall I look for another? Yes, yes. Let's get out of here, church. And I want to know, is there anybody that's sitting in that seat tonight? They got your mind made up. I'm going with Jesus. Y'all still sitting there looking crazy. Look over at your neighbor and tell the neighbor, if I lose all my friends, neighbor, if I lose my job, neighbor, if I lose my health, I'm still going. If I have to go, if I have to go by myself, lean over and grab a neighbor by the hand. Shake it like you're gonna shake it off. Shake it like you got power. Shake it like you got power. Shake it like you a child of God. Look at me, I'm all I got. And say, neighbor, I didn't get here trusting in a whole lot of people. Tell them I didn't get here trusting in the wealth that I have. But look at them and say, neighbor, I made this far by the Lord's grace, and I know His grace is the shadows of death, I will fear no evil, for the Lord is with me. His rod and his staff, they do comfort me. He'll anoint my head, because do I have a witness that when you are walking and the city is by yourself, can I tell you that the Lord won't you anoint your head? Can I tell you why the Lord anoints your head? Because when the sheep is eating from the pasture, they put their heads down in holes, and snakes are in the hole. But it's something about snakes that's attracted to sheep. So what God does, he anoints the head of the sheep, and when they put their head down, when the snake smells the oil, it's a repellent. Can I tell you that the snakes in the beach room all the time ago? But look at your neighbor and say, when he smelled the oil that was on my life, he could do me no harm. Somebody shout yes. Somebody say, I'm anointed for this. I'm anointed to tell you no. I'm anointed to press on anyway. Do I have a witness that can declare in this house, if the Lord be for me, here he is for me. He can show me for one last time and say, neighbor, what the enemy meant for evil, yeah, turn it around for my good. Turn it around 2 times and say, it's for my good. It's for my good. Yeah. When you can be objective, God can sew up some holes that disciples put in your heart. Brothers and sisters, can I tell you, nobody can hurt you like people you love. Do I got any witnesses out there? Jesus declared that your greatest foes should be those of your own household. I want you to do me a favor tonight and lay your hand on the back of someone close to you.